Good afternoon and welcome back to Football League World TV. It's January the 31st. It's the transfer deadline day. And as you expect, it's incredibly busy across the EFL. Myself and Marcus Ali are going to bring you up to date with all the latest transfer news and gossip from the EFL. This is a 15 to 20 minute show, so we can't cram everything in. But luckily for anyone watching, we've got updates every single 2 hours here on Football League World TV. So let's get straight into it. So Alfie Burns kept us up to date this morning with several transfer lines. We've got some more coming in for you now. Let's start off with the future of Antoine Semenyo at Bristol City. We've heard in the last half an hour that Nottingham Forest have had a bid rejected for the 22-year-old forward. Semenyo's enjoyed some really fine form over the last few weeks, notably scoring 2 goals at Craven Cottage. As Bristol City did lose that game, but he really stood out in that game in particular. He also scored against Preston last time out. A really exciting player emerging at Ashton Gate, and Forest have a keen eye on him, but they've had a bid rejected. Marcus, let's come to you then. Semenyo's reportedly valued at £20 million by the hierarchy at Bristol City, which is quite a sizable sum. What do you make of the bid from Nottingham Forest? We'll start off with that. What do you make of that kind of situation there?
Well, it's very ambitious. I think it is the exact type of player that Nottingham Forest should be looking at. Maybe a bit too late in the window it might prove to be. But in terms of building towards the future, I think it would be an excellent signing, maybe a longer term successor to Lewis Grabban. Although if he was to sign for Forest, I do see it becoming a little bit difficult for him to earn the kind of regular opportunities that he is at Bristol City at Nottingham Forest, with the way Keenan Davis has been playing since he signed on loan for the club as well. That transfer fee does seem pretty steep as a valuation, considering that his contract's up at the end of next season as well. So it'd be very difficult to ask for anything near that, maybe even in the summer, which is something maybe Forest could look back in for. He's a player who's improved a lot and has been able to showcase that improvement in the last few weeks, not just the goals he's scoring, but the types of goals he's scoring. These finishes have been really emphatic. He's a versatile forward. He doesn't have to just play through the middle. He can play anywhere across a front three. And he's a player that's been developing nicely at Bristol City in the last few years. I'm sure they'd be gutted to lose him, which is why they're setting that valuation so high with Nigel Pearson giving a lot of opportunities to younger players in what's been an exciting last month or so at Ashton Gate.
Yeah, the noises from Ashton Gate do suggest that he's very happy with how it is at Bristol City right now. He's obviously starting. He did have that injury niggle for the first half of the campaign, but of late he's really kind of come into the fold and has emerged as one of Bristol City's most key players. Do you think that element of versatility with Semenyo, Marcus, is perhaps why Nottingham Forest were keen? Because it can be quite fluid, can't it, when it comes to Nottingham Forest attacking play under Steve Cooper? They do often operate with 3 up top. Do you think that kind of element of versatility is kind of appealed to Steve Cooper?
Absolutely, yeah. I think he's looked to deploy a front three ever since Keenan Davis has come in, has shifted Lewis Grabban out to a sort of wide left role, which has been drifting in and picking up some interesting positions compared to what we're used to. Semenyo would definitely be a player that would be able to play that role. Whether it would be something that they go with in the second half of the season, I'm not so sure. While they've still got the likes of Zinkernagel in on loan from Watford, whether he'd be a player that would be higher up in the pecking order than Semenyo would be interesting to see how that dynamic worked out. I can kind of only see this deal going through if there was some kind of late knee-jerk reaction and U-turn on whether Forest would be keeping Brennan Johnson, because I don't see how they'd be able to outlay the amount of money it's going to take to bring Semenyo to the City ground, nor do I see that the hole in their attacking contingent really for him to fill, unless there was a major departure this afternoon or evening. So, this one looks a long way off, but maybe one to definitely pick up again in the summer with his contract running down and depending even what division Forest could be in next season. I think his versatility does pay into it, and he's definitely a player that's thrown himself into the spotlight in the last few weeks. So it's not a surprise to see the interest given his age and his profile as a player.
Yeah, reports do suggest there have been multiple bids for Antoine Semenyo today. So definitely a situation to keep tabs on over the course of the day until the 11 p.m. deadline. Please do get your comments in. We're broadcasting for the next 15 minutes or so. We can answer your questions live on this show. Let's look at another piece of news next. Struggling Barnsley are weighing up a move for Watford winger Domingos Quina. Quina currently on loan at Fulham, but has only made 4 appearances in all competitions this season for Marco Silva's side. Really struggling to cement himself in that 11. Barnsley in dire need of some reinforcements in this window. They're struggling at the foot of the Sky Bet Championship table, and lots of Tykes fans on social media desperate to see 1 or 2 additions before the 11 p.m. deadline. And Domingos Quina is someone that Barnsley are reportedly in talks to sign. Marcus, Barnsley are struggling considerably this season under Poya Asbaghi. Is someone like Domingos Quina a good potential addition here? Could he offer a bit of a kind of spark to Barnsley right now?
I think it would be a refreshing addition. Yeah, he's definitely a player that would arrive at Oakwell with a point to prove. There was an option to buy in the loan deal at Fulham from Watford with his contract up at Vicarage Road in the summer. Obviously, that looks very unlikely now, but it's no slight on his ability that he hasn't been able to force his way into the star-studded lineup we're seeing at Fulham week in, week out. And in that, him having a point to prove, that probably makes it quite a nice scenario to go into, where Barnsley are not expected to stay up, sadly. I think that's just the reality of the situation, but it's also an environment where there is a chance to build some optimism and some momentum, even if they are going to be relegated this season. And with his deal up at Watford in the summer, he needs that platform. There's no use from either point of view, whether it's the Hornets or Fulham, just having him sort of rotting away in the reserves with his contract ticking down. He does need that platform to potentially find some admirers if his contract, if he doesn't get an extension and he becomes a free agent in the summer. Of course, Fulham would be able to, Watford, would be able to recoup a transfer fee for any sort of club that he went to due to being under the age of 23. So it's definitely in Watford's best interests for this to happen. You would expect the Tykes would be able to offer him regular first-team football. And if it's a player that the Poya Asbaghi thinks can strengthen his side, then I think the Barnsley club hierarchy have to get behind their manager if he is someone that they can see and producing an upturn in form in the second half of the season.
Yeah, this is a particular transfer I do expect to accelerate quite rapidly over the next hour or so. So in the 4 o'clock show, we could have an update for you on Domingos Quina's situation. Barnsley in talks to sign the player on loan until the end of the season. Just a reminder, please do get yourself in the comments, whether you're watching on Facebook, Twitter, or YouTube. You want to hear your thoughts. Are there any players you'd like your EFL club to sign before the 11 p.m. deadline tonight? We'd love to know. Another piece of transfer news. Luton Town are eyeing a late move for Sheffield United's Luke Freeman. Freeman's, again, a player that's not really been able to embed himself into that Sheffield United side this season. Only a handful of appearances at the Blades. Alone does look like a good potential move for the ex-QPR player. Luton keen on making a move for him before the deadline. Marcus, what do you make of this one?
Yeah, I really like the sounds of this. I think it'd be a very shrewd bit of business. Freeman, another player whose contract is up at the end of the season. So in terms of any kind of transfer fee, I would expect it to be minimal. Nathan Jones has a knack of just getting more out of players than previous managers have been able to. If you look at Freeman's career in the Championship, he has been a reliable, consistent performer. It just hasn't. It's kind of been the wrong club at the wrong time, maybe, for Freeman in terms of his career. He's 29 now, so plenty of years still ahead of him, and he'd had a nice sort of bit of experience in midfield areas at Kenilworth Road. I certainly think in terms of the finances that will be involved, this is value in the market. I think Freeman definitely represents that, and with Luton definitely on an upward trajectory as a club, and the way we've seen players' fortunes sort of turn out for the better after arriving there in recent years. I think this definitely sort of fits that trend and would be an exciting signing, and definitely a very clever one given how much of a free-for-all it can be on deadline day. I think this would be definitely one of the more sensible signings.
Yeah, it certainly strikes me as a deal that would suit all parties if Freeman did make the move to Kenilworth Road. Like you say, Nathan Jones, an excellent manager who's able to get the best out of players that perhaps you felt their career was coming to an end. But we shall see. With that one, Luke Freeman linked with Luton Town before the 11 p.m. deadline. Luton fans, if you're watching this, what do you make of that potential addition? Right, let's look at some more news next. Had a few comments coming in. Nabil Ali on YouTube. Bournemouth are making decent signings. Looks like the second spot is secured for them. Let's talk about the Cherries. They look to be incredibly active on this deadline day. Numerous players being linked with a move to the Vitality Stadium. Just in the last few moments, AFC Bournemouth have confirmed the signing of Freddie Woodman on loan from Newcastle until the end of the season. Woodman, no stranger to the second tier, enjoyed a really, really positive stint at Swansea City. That is now a done deal. Woodman has arrived at the Vitality Stadium on loan until the end of the season, but it doesn't seem like that's going to be the last of the Cherries' business today. A number of players, notably Todd Cantwell, Siriki Dembele, among the names being linked with a move. By all accounts, they have all arrived at the Vitality Stadium for a medical ahead of the deadline this evening. Marcus, I tweeted this morning claiming it to be quite outrageous, the fact that Bournemouth are able to bring in some of these players of this calibre on deadline day. What do you make of it? Let's kind of break it down player by player. Let's start off with Todd Cantwell, a player who I feel can operate comfortably in the Premier League. Hasn't had much game time under Dean Smith at Norwich City, but it looks like Bournemouth might be tying up a deal until the end of the season. What do you make of this one?
Yeah, I agree with you, to be honest. I think Cantwell's got the best years ahead of him in his career. And this is kind of the headliner for me. I know they're all high-profile players that they're being linked with, but Cantwell does jump off the page the most. I'm surprised he hasn't been involved as much for the Canaries this season. And when you look at the top area of the pitch for Bournemouth, they are very strong. You've got names like Jamal Lowe, Junior Stanislas, that haven't even been playing that regularly this season. However, you throw Todd Cantwell into that contingent and he does command a little bit more respect and probably some more trust from Scott Parker going into the second half of the season. Obviously has experience of earning 2 promotions and 2 comfortable promotions, I think league titles with Norwich City in the Championship in recent years. So that experience should stand him in good stead. And yeah, he's just a real pleasure to watch, isn't he? When he gets on the ball, it's as you mentioned, maybe it's come a little bit too soon for him, the Premier League, and maybe it's been the wrong club, the wrong sort of atmosphere with Norwich consistently sort of battling towards the bottom end. Yeah, he's a player that was getting talked about for an England call-up a couple of seasons ago. So to see him back in the Championship would be a bit of a surprise, but a real statement from Bournemouth. They clearly, as Nabil was pointing towards, looking at that second place position if Fulham are to run away with it. And yeah, business like that is going to be hard to doubt them in the coming months. Scott Parker's definitely getting the backing that he wants, and yeah, it would be a terrific signing.
Yeah, certainly would. It really, I was shocked when I heard that Todd Cantwell could well be off to AFC Bournemouth, I must admit. Get yourself in the comments. What do you make of the potential move for Todd Cantwell to AFC Bournemouth? Do you think it's a real coup for the Cherries? Please do let us know. Let's touch on Siriki Dembele then. Another player that's understood to be at the Vitality Stadium, concluding a medical ahead of a move from Peterborough United. Marcus, what do you make of this? This would just add to their attacking contingent already. I mean, what is already a really, really strong attacking Arsenal they've got, this just adds to it even more, doesn't it?
Yeah, the depth that they'd be able to boast would be incredible. I'm not 100% sure that Siriki Dembele would be starting lots of games back to back. I think he'd probably take time to adjust to his new surroundings and sort of also adjust to the way that Scott Parker likes to play. It's a completely different scenario to what he's been involved in previously at Peterborough United this season. Obviously, Dembele, as it's been sort of widely known, that his contract's running down at the end of the season. If Bournemouth were to sort of swoop in on deadline day and pick him up, it has to be seen as a good signing. Even if it doesn't work out at the Vitality Stadium, there'd be a chance that they'd be able to make a profit on any sort of fee that they pay this month if they do earn promotion to the Premier League come the end of the season. So it'd definitely be a smart signing at 24 years old. He's a player who's at the top of his game. It'll be a crushing blow for Peterborough, but from a financial perspective, they'd probably rather take the hit now and get a bit of money in for him rather than losing for free in the summer. So Dembele maybe a little less eye-catching than Cantwell, but definitely a player that deserves the opportunity to play at a club at the top end of the Championship, and it'd be interesting to see how he gets on and whether he could push his name to the forefront of Scott Parker's plans come the business end of the season.
Yeah, again, I suppose he has that element of versatility as well, Siriki Dembele, and the fact that he can play centrally through the middle or kind of on either flank as well. So it adds to Scott Parker's options. Comments coming in. Wayne Walden, great to have you with us once again. From a Fulham fan, Bournemouth are panic buying. Does anyone agree with Wayne Walden's sentiment there? Do you think Bournemouth are panic buying on this January transfer deadline day? We'd love to get your thoughts. Right, as I just already mentioned, Freddie Woodman has been confirmed as a Bournemouth player until the end of the season. Marcus, we've seen Mark Travers be the main man in between the sticks for Bournemouth this season. Do you think Freddie Woodman's an upgrade on Travers?
Yeah, I do, sadly. I think Travers has had a great season. He's performed better than I had expected him to. And Woodman may well have to bide his time. He's definitely an upgrade to Oyan Neuland as the backup keeper just initially. But I do think Woodman is a more assured keeper at Championship level than Travers. He's a good shot stopper, but I think just looking at his all-round game, coming for crosses, his distribution, I would see Freddie Woodman as an upgrade. Obviously, it's only a loan deal. Woodman did start the season as Newcastle's number one, but has ended up sort of falling down the pecking order there. So this is an opportunity for him to get a promotion on his CV to start with after coming so close with Swansea City last season. And when you've got Freddie Woodman in goal and the likes of Gary Cahill and Lloyd Kelly in the back line, it is really an intimidating prospect for opposition teams. I think Woodman, maybe I'm going back on what I said about Cantwell being the most impressive signing. I think Woodman is definitely a Premier League keeper and was unlucky to lose his place at St James's Park this season. So, it would be another outstanding bit of business.
Yeah, I have to agree. Fabulous addition for AFC Bournemouth. I mean, he was one of the standout goalkeepers during his time at Swansea City in the Championship. So I'd imagine he'll go straight into that starting 11 under Scott Parker at Bournemouth. Just a few more comments coming in from Dashadu27. If Freeman can show his QPR form, then it will be a good signing for Luton. Freeman arguably enjoyed his best playing days at Loftus Road. So Luton fans will be hoping to see that again from him if he does arrive at Kenilworth Road. Just finally then on Bournemouth, we've named a couple of players there that look set to be joined. The future of Kiefer Moore as well is still up for debate. Reports this morning suggest an agreement has been made with Cardiff City. Marcus, we'll just really briefly touch on this. What do you make of this? If they manage to get all of these signings through the door today, just how impressed would you be with the business?
Yeah, it's very ambitious. They're only in their second year of parachute payment, so they maybe do have a little bit more financial muscle to get these kind of deals over the line than other clubs, especially in January, usually such a difficult window to negotiate. My sympathy goes out to any Championship backlines that manage to keep Dominic Solanke quiet for about an hour, and then Parker goes and brings on Kiefer Moore. It really is ominous for any other sides. I think Blackburn in particular may be looking over their shoulders today and thinking, blimey, we've got quite a thin squad and they haven't made as many signings this season. And you can see Bournemouth bringing in players that you'd probably put in some kind of Championship 11 squad all on the same day. It's going to be interesting to see how they would potentially all fit in under Scott Parker. But no, Kiefer Moore, in terms of leading the line as a sole striker, maybe outside Alexander Mitrovic, he's got to be one of the best in the division. It's been a bit of a slow campaign at Cardiff, but I don't think that takes away from his ability. He's experienced at the level now. It would be another fantastic signing.
Yeah, certainly would. Get yourself in the comments. What do you make of AFC Bournemouth's potential transfer business this afternoon and into this evening? Freddie Woodman has been confirmed just now. That is a deal until the end of the season. Right, a few more transfer lines to keep you up to date with on this Monday lunchtime. Charlton have completed the signing of Scott Fraser from Ipswich Town for an undisclosed fee. Lots was expected of Fraser when he arrived at Portman Road last summer, but he's not really been able to play in his best desired effect, really. Often best utilised in the number 10 role, but hasn't necessarily featured there all too often this season. But the Addicts have completed the signing of Scott Fraser, who did really impress at MK Dons prior to his move to Ipswich. Marcus, as a Charlton Athletic fan, what do you make of this?
Yeah, delighted with Fraser as a sign-in. I think he was superb for Burton Albion and MK Dons, particularly last season. Ipswich have been a bit frantic really this season, changing formation quite a lot and personnel. So Fraser is among plenty of others who haven't quite managed to settle down in Suffolk and produce the types of performances on a consistent basis that they had in previous years. Kieran McKenna has sort of gone for other options. So I think Charlton have acted swiftly to bring in one of Ipswich's marquee signings of the summer. You do have to play to his strengths, though, I feel. I think if Charlton have been quite direct under Johnny Jackson in the last few months, I think that's maybe not something that Fraser's particularly suited towards. But the fact that he's come in on a 3.5-year deal, it was reported that Ipswich wanted about 400,000 for him in the last few days. I think Charlton might have been able to get Ipswich to bring their price down a little bit there, but that just shows the ambition from Thomas Sandgaard after so many years of short-termism and signing players on 1-year deals towards the end of their careers or maxing out on loans. It is really refreshing to see some investment and handing a 3.5-year deal to a 26-year-old who's been one of the best attacking midfielders in League One for the last few years. It has to be seen as an excellent piece of business. What that means and the knock-on effect for Elliot Lee, I'm not so sure. There was talk of maybe him being signed on a permanent rather than just his current loan spell at the club from Luton Town going into the window. His form's dropped off a little bit, and now the Addicts have signed another attacking midfielder. So be interesting to see how that kind of develops. But Jackson's got plenty of options now in attacking midfield. And I think it's a very exciting signing that all fans should be enthusiastic about.
Yeah, I think this signing could be quite underrated by many. I think the form and the quality he showcased, particularly in that spell at MK Dons, really suggests to me that he's more than good enough to operate at League One level at a really high standard. So I'm expecting Scott Fraser to really kick on at the Valley under Johnny Jackson. Any Charlton fans watching? Are you happy with the addition of Scott Fraser in this January transfer window? Do you need any more players in before the 11 p.m. deadline? We'd love to get your thoughts in. Right, let's look at one more transfer line next. You guessed it. We're talking about AFC Bournemouth once again. They are incredibly busy, as we've already touched upon on this show. By all accounts, Fabrizio Romano has tweeted that Bournemouth have reached an agreement with Liverpool to sign Nat Phillips on loan until the end of the season. Phillips had been thrusted into that Liverpool side when Virgil van Dijk was injured and performed quite admirably, to be fair to the player. But it looks like a loan move down to the south coast of AFC Bournemouth is in the offing for the 24-year-old Marcus. What do you make of this one?
Yeah, another astounding piece of business, to be honest. Phillips was a crucial cog in Liverpool sort of bringing it back and ending up finishing in the top 4 last season, and looked like a player that could... It's not a surprise to see him fall away, considering that the players that they've brought back, obviously spending big money on Konate from Leipzig in the summer as well. But he looked like a player that was comfortable at Premier League level. He was taking on more of a leadership role as well at times. So for Bournemouth to get him would be an incredible piece of business. We've looked at Fulham's squad many times this season and said, like, as a squad and as a collective, in terms of sort of like-for-like replacements, that is possibly the strongest squad we've seen in Championship history. Now, if you've got Woodman and Travers and then Cahill and Kelly and Nat Phillips as backup, it also gives Scott Parker maybe the option to deploy a 3 at the back formation as well. So it adds a little flexibility in that sense. But I think you have to start looking at Bournemouth and pushing them towards that category as well. There'd be no excuses, that's for sure, if Scott Parker's unable to achieve automatic promotion as the season progresses. But yeah, I think Phillips would be an outstanding piece of business. He's got a contract at Anfield until the summer of 2025, so that shows how highly rated he is by the club. So yeah, a loan deal until the end of the season would be another very, very impressive piece of business on the South Coast.
Yeah, absolutely. As we touched upon, a very, very busy day expected down at the Vitality Stadium for AFC Bournemouth. Numerous players looking to be signed by the club in this window. Right, well, that brings this particular EFL Transfer Zone show to an end. We've got another update show for you at 4 o'clock. Every single 2 hours, we're going to be broadcasting the EFL Transfer Zone show up until 8 p.m. will be the last show. So make sure you do stay tuned for all the latest EFL transfer news and gossip. As ever, make sure you stay tuned to footballleagueworld.co.uk for the rest of today. We will be bringing you all the latest news as it happens. We will keep you up to date with all of that. But Marcus, thanks for joining me this afternoon for this EFL Transfer Zone show. If you are watching on YouTube, if you could stick a like in below the video, that would be greatly appreciated. And also, if you are new around here, please do subscribe to the channel. It really does help us grow. But from myself and Marcus, we shall see you soon.